What's happening, fandoms? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, we react to music videos and shows. This is episode 1 of season 2 of The Expanse. And so if you're joining us on our Patreon, which anyone can do for the first episode of every season of every show we do, welcome to our Patreon. Check it out in the watch along format. And if you're on YouTube, you'll get to see our edited version. In the last episode, we wrapped up not the full events of book 1, but we did end with the events of Eros Station, basically the proto-molecule taking control of the population and using it as a building block to create something. We'll find out what that something is later this season, I'm sure. But the showrunners and writers of the books, they masterfully used the insert character Kenzo, the spy, as a way to provide some exposition about the protomolecule. They had him, we got to see his perspective of the protomolecule after our crew had already escaped the station, and we saw that it was actively building and creating things, but also formed something like an entity presence that interacted with him in some way, giving us or leading us to believe that the protomolecule has some form of consciousness. And I'm sure we'll get to see more about that in the upcoming episodes, but it's very, very exciting. Now, I am very close to finish with book 2 in my reread of the series, and I'm glad that I'm doing that. I'm glad I'm reading ahead because as I've seen and as I've been told now multiple times, they really are sort of slightly shuffling how certain events, people, characters, concepts get inserted into the show at different times. And I had remembered that the crew had that they had a Marine that was actively hanging out with them for a while. And in book 2, we get to meet Mars Marine Bobby Draper, and I happened to catch the name Bobby in the little descriptive paragraph of this episode, so I'm assuming we're already meeting Bobby, even though we are nowhere near done with book 1. So things are slightly mixing around, and I don't know how extensive our view into Bobby's world is going to be in this episode, but I suspect that means that we are about to get introduced to some events on Ganymede, because that's where we first meet Bobby in the books. So I'm very excited for this. Without any more blabbling from my part, let's dive in to the episode titled Safe. Season 2, episode 1, go.
Travis, right flank, Hillman, left, roger right.
Roger left.
Oh. Ooh.
Travis, can you shift left? Negative, I got it coming on the right. 5 targeted, that's all of them.
Oh no. Ooh. I love it.
Say your goodbyes and kiss your mommies. It's gonna be a long trip.
Interesting. We meet Bobby much earlier in her career. Okay, I like that. That was a training mission on Mars. I like how they're portraying the armor.
Someday.
Yeah, Mars needs to be terraformed still. Yeah, in the books, when we are first introduced to Marine Draper, Gunny Draper, it's right immediately before her entire squadron is almost wiped out. So this is a much earlier introduction to her. It's important for us to be more invested in the characters, so...
So, other than being blasted by 50 times the lethal limit of radiation, you're doing surprisingly well.
Oh, he's dreaming. You're not getting me. Yeah, if you'd witnessed something like that, you would be deathly afraid of it, I'm sure. Now, this is the safe.
Maybe we should let the guys on Tycho handle
They
it.
pulled off the scopuli.
Belong to Fred Johnson.
Roger that, boss.
There you go. Clean as a whistle. All right, step right up.
Okay, these are the refugees.
What happens if one of us infected?
We'll cross that bridge if we get to it.
You mean you're gonna space us?
We should go back. Whatever happened, maybe it's over now. Some still left alive.
Nope. No one is left alive. You are lucky to be here.
A lot more could have been saved.
Where are we? Oh, okay, right. That was his cop buddy from Eros. Okay.
And the quarantine of Eros Station continued to be a source of debate.
I never did say it, but thanks for getting me off Eros. I wouldn't have made it without you.
That is true.
And the cancer.
Now, you have to know what this is, right, guys?
Hello? 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 Hold on, I can't hear you.
Archangel is secured.
Okay. Well, that is not an
The
event
molecule
I
seems to
am
behave
familiar
like
with.
the subject, mutating rapidly in each different biomass.
First proof of extraterrestrial life.
And it's just more fucking death.
Ooh.
Hey, you still got a beat on that signal that you guys intercepted leaving Eros? Huh?
Well, I'm not keeping it on the Rossi. I won't take that risk. I sure as heck don't want to share a bunk with that.
Yeah, that stuff is
Then we'll hide it.
dangerous.
Where?
Out here. No one knows we have it. No one even knows we made it off Eros alive.
Hey, you owe me a bottle. Gonna me bourbon, not the cheap shit, eh?
Okay. Interesting.
Gonna put in for new gear one of these eons?
His bones are all wrong from growing up in full G. We'll keep him anyway. Hey, watch it.
All right, kids, keep it business.
Well put, Gunny.
Lieutenant?
Briefing in 5.
I like that we're getting some real glimpses into...
Violins, Schubert in D minor.
Securing the facility until we get a science team in for a deeper investigation. After Phoebe went silent, Doninger was sent to investigate.
Every one of the bodies was frozen to the walls of the ice tunnels.
Prep your teams. Dismissed. Gunny, up here.
This is really cool, getting all of this pre-story stuff.
I know that you and your team need a rotation on the Donnie.
But it's still worth fighting for.
Be safe down there.
Very interesting. We don't really get much backstory about the
There's been a development.
Mars
ship to Phoebe
colony
Station, I know.
stuff.
What are you doing about it?
Well, that depends. I'm assuming there's nothing left to find there.
This was Julie's spot. Far from the house.
Yeah.
No one could find her.
He loved his daughter.
But she could find her adventures. She taught herself to shoot a bow and arrow at this tree. She's a sacred part of it now. So don't talk to me about sacrifice. Ever again.
Yeah.
Famous coffee machine you keep talking about.
Other way.
Holden's always been about coffee. Oh, are we gonna have a problem?
We should get to that. Yeah. We're here now. Your pal, Simi? You're upset about that, right?
Okay.
I had nothing against him. I thought he was a decent guy. Decent guy? Yeah. If you need to square up, you know where I am. Otherwise, you should move on because you're poisoning the air on them. Stay down, Miller.
Oh boy. I figured this was gonna have some consequences. They just spent weeks keeping him alive.
Place our ships in the paths of theirs.
They'll know we're ready for any planned acts of aggression. We share all those bases. They have no rights.
Mars does not want war. They want to get back to terraforming and building domes for their people. Sir, if we de-escalate, I am convinced that they will respond in kind.
And erode our position if Mars decides not to give peace a chance. Sir.
Madam, do you concur?
She shouldn't.
I do.
Organizing all my stuff here. And I realized I don't have any stuff.
This thing with you and Amos.
Pretty sure he's not your fella, right?
Timber was a good man.
It's more like your kid.
But he's not crazy and he's not evil. He's just always needed someone to help him out with the world.
And he picked you. Congrats.
Like Julius to you. How long you and her?
Never met her.
Never met her. I only saw her that one time. After they'd already killed her. I know it's bullshit, but she's right there. She takes my hand, she tells me, you belong with me.
There's some foreshadowing.
I'm pretty sure I don't belong here.
Then we need to stick together. Yamsing.
The UN and Nathan Hale is on a direct course to Phoebe Station.
Interesting.
When we accelerated, they matched. And now the Nathan Hale is burning us.
Under no circumstances are we to allow Phoebe to fall under UN control.
Oh boy.
Prepare your team for drop.
They are showing her to be hard. She is a tough one. I like that we're building the character strongly. This is cool.
Good to see you, Courtier. I don't believe lightning strikes twice.
What do you want?
Who is this
I
guy?
want you on my security detail.
I've been out of the network for a decade. I handled freight security for a small firm with a lunar run.
Spare me the bullshit. I know all about your freelance work.
You kept a scrapbook on me.
Oh, don't flatter yourself. You have skills which I thought might be useful someday. A little theater to buy some time. I'm being set up.
Yep.
When my investigation dead ends, I'll make an excellent scapegoat.
Well, this is an interesting change.
I think all that radiation failed to give me superpowers.
I hope that hasn't been irradiated out of you.
Hmm.
Was sort of endearing.
Did they? What did they just put into that safe?
So,
Can you hear me through the mask?
Yeah.
Talking using conductivity.
Can only imagine what you saw in Eros. Or what it was like to nearly die that way. We did not choose this, but this is our fight now.
This crew is depending on me.
I like it.
You've put your lives in my hands. I'm okay.
Okay. That's an interesting change. In the book, they leave that safe with Tycho Station. So this is a significant thing.
Sorry.
Kind of like a wetsuit almost. Interesting. Okay. So it begins. Man, that implant on his shoulder looks painful. The Nathan Hale. That was the one that was headed for Tycho.
Fired 5 missiles in response to the Nathan Hale's hard burn towards Phoebe.
Oh boy.
my God, they've done it.
Not yet. It takes two to play war.
There's a 20-minute delay from the AO.
He's a man of restraint. He's one of our finest.
You know Captain Yevgeny?
Since he was a little know-it-all at the academy debating me in philosophy, I promise you, sir, he is the same wise man he was back.
I didn't know we shared Captain Yevgeny as a friend.
An exceptional man.
Yes. Who never went to the academy.
The Nathan Hale has not fired on the Scirocco. Their missiles were not intended for us. I repeat, their missiles were not intended for us.
Interesting. Where?
Command, be advised. We are standing down.
Oh, my
The Martians were
lord.
targeting Phoebe Research Station, which sustained multiple direct hits.
Ooh, that's a big deal. Is he gonna give him a space burial here? Yep. Was this symbolizing him letting go? Perhaps?
Alex! So I'm thinking to myself, I said to myself, Self, we ought to just do that, right? So, voila! That's lasagna. Don't go judging it before you taste it, Earther. It's not bad, Marshall. You know, I remember a time in the series when there was real cheese. We confiscated about 1,000 kilos of high-grade cheddar. It was bound for some luxury spa on Titan. Stuff was out of Vermont, too.
We good?
Whole room stinks like cheese farts. I think I know that, Governor. Teddy the detector, this guy was not.
Got an intel flash. The Hale was carrying 10 times our number. We weren't going to send you down to a slaughter.
One of us is worth 20 of them.
Oh boy.
They wanted something on Phoebe and we vaporized it. I'd say the fight's coming soon enough.
I hope you're wrong.
Ever wonder if we've got it backwards?
They're painting her as a real
Maybe
war
we can't
hawk.
have the dream of Mars until we've had that war.
Knowing what I know about her future, that's a very interesting way to show her. Guess gotta have some room for character growth, huh? Very cool. So I was wrong about what we were headed for. I do remember in the books that we talked about how Phoebe Station got exploded. We didn't experience it from any kind of a first-person perspective, but it was news flash, essentially. We had no way of knowing that Gunny Draper, or Bobby Draper, was there for that event. In the books, we don't meet her for some good long time. There are a number of major events that occur before we really get to Bobby's parts in this here story. So the thing that they've done here is they've introduced her early, much earlier, to help us build her character and become attached to her, and perhaps give her some character growth arc. It's interesting to see how nationalistic, let's say. She's very Mars first, very let's just destroy the Earth and we're better than them and so on, right? All the slogans that I'm sure they teach their military to provide them a sense of pride and a reason to move forward. It seems like the cooler heads in both militaries know that going to war, Mars and Earth, is essentially a recipe for everyone dies. There's no survival if those two major powers of the solar system face off head to head. It's pretty similar to the concept of nuclear escalation on the Earth, where if the major superpowers decide to destroy each other, it's literally assured mutual destruction. If anyone attacks the other, everyone dies, right? There's no safe way to escalate into war. It would just basically be, we go from everyone's alive to everyone will be dead soon. And I feel like that's the same political environment that they're describing in this world, where we're no longer talking about two countries on the same planet, but still, it's the same concept. And it's also interesting that we're getting deep into Christians being set up by Aaron Wright this early as well, because that really doesn't come to a head until much later, and she finds out in quite different ways than we did in this one. It's the same idea, it's just earlier and different, but the benefit of being a third-party viewer is that we have the opportunity to check in with the bad guys, which in the books does not happen, right? We don't get to be privy to private meetings between Aaron Wright and Mao. We don't get to know what Mao is thinking. We don't understand that this is all part of a plan until it's discovered through the other events that happen as the main characters. So it's interesting for us, the viewers, to be aware of some of these dangers slightly before we would have as readers. But it's a different medium, and the threats are they are telegraphed differently, and they're portrayed differently for greater impact. I thought it was interesting also, speaking of threats, that the Semi-Miller Amos connection was escalated and seemingly resolved within this episode. I wondered if it might not lead to something of a problem, and I couldn't know how that would manifest because none of those events ever happened in the books. We did not get a piece where Semi was even really involved in their escape. He wasn't certainly on board and threatening to kill people unless they took off. And so there was no reason for Amos to kill him. And as such, he did not. And so there was the instigating event never occurred. And it doesn't surprise me that Amos would literally, seemingly in a very mature and self-aware fashion, recognize that there was a problem and address it head on. And when that did not resolve the issue by itself, he welcomed violence. I think violence is certainly right inside Amos's wheelhouse, and he's good at it. And the only reason that Miller didn't die is because Naomi came and saved his ass. And so that provided us with a couple of additional moments, an interesting tete-a-tete with Miller and Naomi, which I don't believe we ever saw that type of thing occur in the books. And also for them to allow those tensions to recede and for Miller to recognize that there was no way he was going to ever come over the top of Amos. And I guess he let it go. And symbolically gifting Semi his official funeral adrift in space, let go of that connection. And we got some interesting commentary about his relationship with Julie. In the books, we get to hear Miller's thoughts, which obviously you can't do very well without some wacky self-narration bullshit that never comes across very well in shows. And so in order for us to understand his thoughts and his feelings, we need a conversation to occur. We need some way for those things to come to light. And so feel like the Miller Amos tension was a story beat that drove us to some realizations. And so the tension served its purposes a couple of ways. We got extra tension and we got some action. We got a Miller Amos fight, which was cool. I knew Amos would come out on top in that one, but it also drove a story reason as well, which is good, just good writing. I like that they're taking the opportunity to make specific, important changes to how things go for specific, important story beat reasons. And like I mentioned in the last couple of episodes, it seems like they introduced the Kenzo character and really made strong use of him from several story-driven perspectives. It allowed us to have his viewpoint at the end on Eros. It allowed for I've talked a bunch about that in previous episodes. I won't dive into it, but they're really making strong use of their ability to rewrite and add pieces to allow explanations to occur more easily and to push the storyline along. And so I'm enjoying that a great deal. Yeah. So I'm kind of glad that we didn't jump forward to Ganymede. We'll get to Ganymede at some point. It's really Ganymede is the beginning of book 2, and I'm glad we haven't jumped ahead so far. But it is fun to have gotten to meet Bobby Draper a little earlier than I expected, so that we can develop her character into what she is. And they're really portraying her as quite a badass. And in the books, the way she is described might have been difficult for them to find someone to portray that role. I feel like they described her as a 7 foot tall, 300 pound Samoan, basically. Just a Goliath, huge person of a person. And that it might have been difficult to actually bring someone in for a physical role like that. But the actress that they did bring in is an impressive physical presence. Maybe not exactly as described in the books, but that's fine. And she and the writers are doing a fairly good job of, you know, having us understand where she's coming from and how powerful and how capable she is. And I like what they've done. It's nice. All right, I think that's all the major points I wanted to hit. Appreciate you guys for following along with us and all the comments and support and supportive comments. Very nice of you. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much for liking and subscribing and doing all the YouTube doodly doos that you do. And we'll see you in the next video.